It's your mindset that's going to allow you to navigate the emotion. And I just want to go
Yep.
real brief. I gave a presentation on this the other day. There are three types of mindsets. The first mindset is the motivated mindset that says, I can, I will, I must. Anything you say you must to, you're going to do. Then we've got the mediocre mindset that says, I can, I will, if I'm in the mood. So, of course, your results are up and down. And then we have that miserable mindset that says, I can, but I won't. It's too hard. And we're human. And because we're human, we go through all three. But you got to think about, where do you spend most of the time? And I think for all of us, that, I'm speaking for all of us. We are in that motivated mindset. We say, I must. And because we have that I must attitude, we are working on how do we navigate, and how do we navigate change? How do we take on change? What do we do in order to move change and welcome it and move forward with it? And we know how to navigate the risk, and that's why we're still here. Melih, you've had some times in the past that you really had to navigate risk. We all had to navigate risk since COVID. So that's what we are, problem solvers. And to the degree that we are, it's how are we navigating risk and how are we moving forward. So emotions are fine. It's not that they're fine. We deal with them, and we just, we put on our problem solving hat. And
Yeah, I think it's about our capacity to manage our emotions. That's, I think, is the important part. And the unfortunate situation is that when you're 30, you're 35, you started your own business, you're the guy at the top, the buck stops with you. Your ability to manage your emotions is extremely important. But if you don't have the experience, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the foundation to do this, then you end up going in multiple directions simultaneously, and it's not a good idea. Just earlier today, I was in a separate meeting. We were talking about how do we share, which is what we're doing here. How do we share the knowledge and experience that we've gained over 40 years with the younger generation, which I think is important. And I think this is what the value is of the show that we've put on. Everybody here has different experiences, different knowledge base. We've gone through different emotions ourselves during the course of these 40 years as we're building out our company and our business and dealing with clients and contracts and all this other stuff. I think it is important that we focus our attention on how do we share this knowledge, because the business owner is 30, he's 35, somewhere in that neighborhood. That's usually when people start developing their businesses. They start a business in that range. Question is, can we provide them the support to help guide them through that process? And if I go back 30 years, I don't know that these types of resources that we have right now, with the four of us talking and sharing what we know,
Nobody shared.
No, it was a lot
nobody
harder.
did. I
Nobody
know.
shared. They were
It just
scared
wasn't
you were going to
available.
steal their idea. Forget
Yeah,
it.
and there wasn't this ability for us to, if we wanted to get content into the world, you needed a distribution channel. So when I mean,
Yeah.
even this wasn't, let's see, I'm thinking back to even 15, 16 years ago, the internet was definitely running, but I remember I wanted to do this audio training series, and I had to record it all myself, then find a company to put it on CD so that I could get it out in distribution. And I was just thinking, like, if that were today, I would just start a freaking podcast and press record.
I
And
know.
and then I have all of the, so it's so, business, I think, has always been hard, but the advantage
Yeah.
today is you've got shows like ours, and I think it can pull time forward a little bit if you're starting, or in my
I
case,
agree.
I do this show selfishly because first of all, I only share the stuff that I think I need to hear the most, and second of all, I ask the questions that I'm that I want answers to the things I'm dealing with. Then I get to hear your experience, but then also, people reach out to me and say, "I'm glad you shared that, because here's what I'm going
Agree.
through."
Yeah.
And we can all, it becomes an upward spiral instead of a downward spiral, which is,
Right.
if
Exactly.
something's going wrong, like at the beginning of the show, it could easily go to a downward spiral and just be like, well, we just have to cancel. And as I'm solving the problem, I'm like, okay, I'm already thinking of 3 other ways we could still do the show. And I had those email drafts ready to go while the thing was like,
Trying to figure
while
itself
the
out.
bar was moving, right? Like 10%, 12%, 13%. I'm like, okay, we could just go on Zoom and record it and I can upload it later. We can go live on YouTube instead. Here's the link for that. I was like literally thinking of 7 different things. Cause not doing the show was like, it was a matter of principle for me. Like we're doing the
I
show.
know.
Would you
Right.
say, Rochelle? Like it's a must. I must.
it's a must.
Yeah.
Anything that you say you must do you'll take care of. And you just proved my point. We are problem solvers.
Yeah.
You had an issue, a snag came up, you could have caved and you could have said, you know what, let's do this next week. But no, your knee-jerk reaction is I'm a problem solver and we're just gonna we're gonna solve this.
Yeah.
And I think that if we take on that attitude much more, no matter what level of business you're in, if you're starting, if you've got some traction, you're doing extraordinary, your superpower, your cape, your superpower is that you are a problem solver. You don't run away from the problem. You're marching towards the problem and figuring out what's the next best step. And that's all we need to do. What's the next best step, which will lead to the next best step. And the next thing you know, the problem is more or less solved. And that attitude is just so vital for me anyway. Because if not,
Right.
I can get myself off the court in a moment's notice.
Absolutely. Steve, when you were talking about your presentation, like you have given a lot of these, and I always think about how when I first started speaking at groups and whatnot, if my presentation was at 2:00, I'd probably get there around 1:30, and kind of ease into it. And then, the more that I would do, the earlier that got, because it only took one time of me having a situation like that where the projector wasn't working, the internet went down, my laptop wasn't connecting to the to the thing. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna camp out here. I'm gonna do and if I can, I do a dry run the day before. And even then, it still sometimes fails. So I'm sure, like, if you're anything like me, you've had multiple instances over the course of the years where live presentations always seem to, like, if you're doing a live presentation, whether it's LinkedIn Live or like you were doing a workshop live, that's kind of like the perfect scenario for something to just.
It almost always goes wrong.
Always.
Here's the secret. I'll give you all a tidbit that I learned from a good friend of mine. I'll even name him Chris Daigle of the chiefaiofficer.com. He said, record yourself on Loom doing that live item you have to do with good internet connectivity, just in case you need to revert to it. And sure enough, he and I did a presentation together and we couldn't get the internet to work right. Thank God he suggested we record the demo of that software. So there's, like, just a good little secret. I'm a Marine, so I'm always about being prepared. And yeah, I always got there half hour early, easily, if not sooner. And the first thing I do was, okay, how do I hook up? Where is it? And make sure it works. Let me test it. Do all those things. And even the night before, I have all the windows open that I'm going to need. So I don't have to worry about, finding the window, having to log in, all that stuff. And, sure enough, it never fails. If you're not prepared, you're going to get whacked. So
important. I mean, I can't even tell you how many, if I had to pinpoint something, I'd say so many companies, they're not prepared. They wing it. They just come in and they wing it, and then they're curious as to why something may or may not be working. And I just see that over and over and over again, be it in a presentation, in a sales meeting, in anything. They just show up barely prepared, and they, like, well, let me just wing it. And they go off on a tangent. They don't sound as professional as they really are, and they're surprised, like, why isn't things moving effectively?
Yeah, I agree.
Well, you bring up, that what you're talking about is discipline. That's an individual issue at the end of the day. You have the discipline to be able to
be prepared
to the plan, right? And be prepared, right? Like you were saying, Sean, you're coming in 30 minutes before, making sure that everything's right? And that's really what it comes down to. I don't take on, just to give you a basic example, I don't take on a meeting that ends at 2 p.m. when we meet. My meetings for this show end at 1:30. I don't care how I need to do it. The meetings end at 1:30 because I know right after the meeting, I got something to do, right? It's not like I'm empty. And by the time I'm done with that, 10 or 15 minutes have gone by. Well, now we have 15 minutes to the show, right? Well, the idea is have the discipline to put that in place and focus on that. And so, yeah, Rochelle, what you're talking about, I think comes down to discipline.
Yeah. Well,
that's a tricky one. Go ahead, Sean. What's your take on that?
I was thinking, discipline for sure, which is holding yourself accountable to doing the preparation that's necessary and doing it every time. So what was coming up for me was, I'm going to butcher the paraphrase quote, but it's generally, whether this is athletes, business people, speakers, we don't rise to the level of the opportunity. We sink to the level of our training, or sink to the level of our preparation. Basically, I'm thinking, like, okay, what was the reason I was able to have these emails kind of open, ready to go to you all? And it's because I had set up the YouTube channel. I had set up, my AI tool ready to go. I had rehearsed what we did to get the thing live before today. Like, it was the first time that we did it. In fact, we pushed back the meeting because we weren't prepared the first time for how much
Right.
actually involved in
Yeah.
making something go live on LinkedIn. So I was like, okay, well, of course that happened. It's not, that was a lesson for me. Like, you can't ever take anything for granted, even if you think you understand how it works.
Well, we made the huge assumption technology was easy.
Easy. Yeah. I'm sure, I think Rochelle
Until
has
it's
a
not.
thought or
Until
two
it's not.
about technology being easy.
Let me tell you, that's not my assumption. Anything other than pressing an on or off button, that's my, anything after that reaches a level of difficulty.
Yeah.
So no, that's not my area, and that's I hand it over to the expert that can handle that.
Well, a lot of times we were talking about the younger generation earlier, and I agree with you. I think it's great that, for those of us that have more years of being in business, that there's a lot of things that we can offer to somebody that hasn't been in business as long. One of the things I think that there's no where experience is like the best teacher. I was thinking about presentations I've given over the years where everything failed. Like, literally, I did the preparation. I had the discipline. I was there early. I was there the day before, checked out the room. Everything was ready and open, and then it still all failed. And I did not pre-record. And I remember one time in particular where there was no microphone. The microphone went out. We had lights and basically people in the room and me. And I said, okay, we're going to bring me your toughest business problem. Who wants to bring your toughest business problem? And I literally just did laser coaching for 45 minutes. And when I tell you I closed more business from that event than I ever would have if I was giving a 30-minute keynote. And
it was real.
It was real. And
real.
I was so
Yeah.
prepared because I had such confidence in my experience that I was like, whatever these folks throw at me, I'm going to be able to make it worth their while. And not that I know the answer to all their problems, but I was able to just do the thing that I do because of all the preparation and experience.
What do you
Go ahead.
think you're bringing them? You're bringing them hope. They're struggling in an area. They're coming to you like, and they're trying to test you like, okay, show them big shot. You think you know it all. They have the problem of
Wait till you hear my issue.
Exactly. That was, like a lot of times I love dealing with people. They say, you think, I see your issue and I raise you a disaster. They're coming to you with something that's pretty intense and you're answering them. And then what it does is it calms people down and it gives them the ability to say, you know what, there's hope in this. I'm going to move forward. This person's going to guide me, and what's going to take me forever, he's going to reduce the time that it's going to take. He's going to support me in making it happen. And that something that was a disaster, a half hour ago, now became doable.
Yeah.
And that's
A lot.
really important when we are with people, when we're mentoring people. We're taking people from the impossible so that they can actually say, you know what, this is now doable. And I feel really proud when I do that with people.
Absolutely. Go ahead,
A
Steve.
lot of people have either imposter syndrome, they don't think they're smart enough, or they just
Hello?
don't,
Did you
or
speak
they
to
don't feel,
brilliant?
I know, Oy vey, I know, or they automatically assume no one else has had this problem or this issue. And I'm here to tell you that we've all had it. We're all going to get it if you haven't had it. But, getting some advice from someone else or asking a question, there's no shame in it. I think that, all coaches have coaches for a reason.
Yeah.
Funny
thing is that presentation. So about halfway through, the internet came back on, and the tech came back on, and the person that was helping me, the AV person in the room, kind of came and said, "Hey, everything. Do you want us to turn the slide deck on?" I'm like, "Nah, this is way more. This is too much fun. We can't stop now. We're in it, baby. We're going to finish this." And I even said to the audience, I'm like, "What do you guys think? Structured presentation, or let's keep doing this?" And they're like, "Let's keep doing this." So,
Look,
yeah.
we've talked about this idea that, we have 160 years worth of knowledge and experience here. And I think that says a lot, number one. But as we were saying earlier, I don't know about you guys. I didn't come prepared to this show. And I think the value of the show is that we're just talking freely, right? It's real at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think, Steve, you mentioned it, right? It's real. It's based on our knowledge and experience over many years. Lots of mistakes we made, whether it was emotional or not, whether it was the right decision or not, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And a meeting I had this morning, this is what I was talking about when I was trying to explain the show. When we're passing along, we're sharing our knowledge and experience, whether it's good, whether it's bad, or whether it's indifferent. And we're coming at it from 4 different perspectives at the end of the day. I think this is helpful to a lot of the people out there. And I don't think anybody wants, the old shows where everything is pre-programmed it down to the nth degree where they've dotted the i's and they crossed the
No,
t's. It's like, give me a break.
that's old hat. That's old hat. Nobody
It
wants that crap
is.
anymore.
Nobody wants.
So what I find is changing in the environment and that's what I love. What I'd love for us to really continue doing is vulnerability is okay. We don't have to know it all, and we can tell people that we don't know it all. We don't. We never did, and we're here to explore what could be next.
Yeah.
And we said, Sean, ages ago, being vulnerable, telling people that I don't know how was like a curse. Oh my God, you're going to hold it against me. Today, I really think the more vulnerable you are, the more you're creating trust, and the more that becomes your superpower as well. So who would have thought 10 years ago that vulnerability is sexy? I mean, if you would have told me that ages ago, I would have.
And that's the best way to say it. It really is sexy. People love it.
Yeah, it's attractive.
Vulnerability used to be a weakness. Hide it. It was it was shameful. And today, you don't know something. You're willing to explore it. You're willing to bring out an emotion that, like, I'm nervous. I'm like, it's sexy. It's no longer hidden. We can really talk about this and problem solve it together. So I think that that's a huge direction that businesses is taking, and I think it's great.
When I first started coaching,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Excuse me, I'll be real quick. I was worried that, oh my God, what if I don't know something? These are like CEOs of these monster-sized companies, and as big as I got was 10 million. I never got $50-100 million a year company. What do I know?
Yeah.
And it was very quick that I very simply realized that, you know what, guys, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to find out and I'll get back to you. And that was totally fine. And they were cool. You're not knowing everything.
Yeah, but you made, for lack of better words, a commitment that you're going to figure it out, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to take the lead to figure it out, which I think happened in Sean's case in the presentation. He said where everything went wrong. Yet it was the most successful.
It was awesome.
He held himself accountable.
I actually started doing that more. Like I took that, and what came out of that was actually a very repeatable presentation, because I went forward and used what worked there, and then I created a presentation around it that I could do for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or 30 minutes, all around laser coaching. So I had, I came in prepared with a topic that no matter what, I could literally run that with just me and 5 people in a room. I could run it with me and 300, and I never would have thought that would have been effective if that had happened to me. I thought like I had to be, there's a time and a place for a well-polished keynote. Don't get me wrong. There are times where you would want to maybe hold off and say, well, let's make sure we get this right, because it's what's best for the audience. But in that case, I thought, well, they're here to learn. In that case, it was a marketing presentation on social media. And I thought they're here to learn about social media. I can talk about that. About that. So let's just talk about it. And it was pretty cool. And it
works.
Yeah.
And it works.
And Rochelle, it's funny you say vulnerability is sexy, because putting on my musical theater hat here for a minute, for those who are just getting to know me, I also have done and will continue to do professional musical theater. And so in the audition room, when you're auditioning for a production, there's this, especially with newer actors, with younger folks, or in my case, when I was new at age 40, I always thought you had to come into the audition room and show them who you are, and like perform for them and be big with everything. Now, there are certain characters where maybe that's true, but what casting director after casting director would tell us is that what they want is for you to walk in and just be willing to let your guard down and show us, who are you at your core? What makes you you? And how do you bring that into the character that you're playing? Versus having to put on this like show. They want to be drawn in. They want to see the real person. They want to see that you are a real person with real feelings and a real human experience. Right. And I had one casting director say, I want you to turn me on. And I don't mean that sexually. What turns me on, what turns me on is when you have the courage to be vulnerable in this room. And because it draws people in, you're like, ooh. And I wonder if that's always been true, or like, because, and it's just that maybe humans became so presentational. We've put up so many facades over the years that I don't know if it's always been that way, or if it's starting to come back that way because so many people were trying to be showy and presentational. I don't know. That's what I wonder about, because I don't think years ago in business you wanted to be vulnerable at all.
No, you couldn't. I don't think you could.
No, you couldn't. I
Yeah.
agree. I mean,
But you
listen,
couldn't
guys,
show it. You couldn't show it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention real quickly our marketing agencies in Detroit. We have the world's largest car manufacturers in town with their world headquarters, right? Number one. We have the largest ad agencies in town too. Never mind the largest tier one manufacturers in town. The reason I bring that up is because we worked with some of the largest tier one, largest ad agencies that support the car manufacturers. And I will tell you, when they would outsource, and I say that loosely because we were actually brought in as part of their team when doing presentations to the client. And I will tell you, there was not 1 ounce of bad news in anything they prepared, and I had to go with it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, really? I'm just gonna sit here and you guys deal with it.
That was the culture at that point, and I
Yeah.
think
I know.
that is changed. That's what I'm saying. It changed, and I don't think it's fully there yet. And I think there's certain industries that it's much more acceptable than in others, and I think
Yeah.
it's starting to kind of come along in other industries. So it's starting. I mean, there's certain industries that yes, you're vulnerable. You come to them with emotion, they can handle it. Certain industries still can't. I think it's harder to do that if you're working with engineers. Anything that's so left brain and adding and subtracting, it takes them a while. They're like the last ones to get on board. But we need to bring that into business because I think it makes business easier.
I
It makes
agree.
it chiller, and I think that you'll get more buy-in from not only your clients but from your team members, and that's your first client is your team members, your employees, because without your employees you don't have anything. So your first one is your team members, and then it's your clients. And I always say that there used to be a great expression, and you know this, Sean, more than I do. They always would say you're only as good as your weakest employee. And boy, I changed that. I said, not true. You're only as great as your strongest employee. You can replace
Yeah.
the weakest employee a lot easier, but if you've got somebody that's really talented, let me tell you, you need to be pretty connected so that you can work with them. And one of the ways that salary is not everything. People want to know that they matter. They want to have a connection with you. They want to know that you relate to them, that you accept them. And vulnerability has a lot to do with that. I can't even tell you one of the things that I'm dealing with right now. And there's a client of mine that I'm working with right now. He's having a rough time because his wife is going through all this, fertility drugs. You can't believe what's going on over there. And the fact that he was able to talk to me about it, he's not functioning. So again, I mean, talk about the vulnerability and being able to really speak about that. Years ago, you kidding? Nobody would even go near you. So what I'm saying is that that's now our super strength. It now's what makes us valuable to our clients because they're not only coming to us with, let's just say, problems, they're coming us because we can hold their hands emotionally so that they can do the difficult work. And I'm proud. I love doing it. I love being able to support somebody in doing the difficult work because I know that I need the support in doing the discipline's not enough. I can be as disciplined as I'd like, but it's still there's something going on over here. So the more that I feel supported, it allows me to be brave. And I think that that's so important to others. The more that we can support, it allows others to be brave.
Well said. Steve, what do you think? I know you're living in the AI world probably even more than the other three of us here. How do you see AI playing into all of all this humanity we're talking about? Where does it go from here as more and more of us? And the reason I ask is because I was thinking we're talking about vulnerability, and I saw something. I think it was Harvard Business Review that polled thousands of people, and the number one use case for generative AI that was reported in the survey was therapist or companionship. And I was, wow, that's interesting to me. So I'd love your thoughts.
Yeah. So, besides the fact that people are worried about layoffs and jobs and, everything else, I mean, the reality is that AI will continue to be an augmentation to the work that we do. And if it's used properly. As it comes down to therapists, you can go to 11 labs and it has an actual built-in AI therapist coach that will help you along. I talk to my AI. I actually have live
Me too.
conversations
Me too.
that are ongoing, and I actually have a chat that's called Ideas and Brainstorms. And I actually will throw my ideas and my brainstorms into this chat, this bot. I call her Chloe. She actually has a name, and I'll say hi, Chloe. And sometimes when I'm talking or I'm driving and talking to it, I forget that I'm not talking to a person. But that's kind of the whole idea, is to think, or like we have to say, think in AI. So you don't want to think like a robot, but you want to think like, how can it do whatever for me? How can I leverage it? What can I get out of it? Because it's a tool. But I think for all of humanity, will the robots replace humans? No, they don't really have any empathy, at least not yet. They're working on it. Agents are and agentic agent systems are really becoming prevalent. And to bring it down to layman's terms, just think of having a bunch of chat GPTs be your worker bots, and each one does a specific task. Like every day, I have a scheduled task that gives me a post for the day, and I have it randomly create me a post about AI and about coaching and about whatever I'd like it to do. Also, the weather for my local area, so I don't have to look at my phone. I get it right to my phone. The first thing I wake up, I look at my email. There's all my information and my scheduled tasks. So I think for humanity, it's going to continue to make life better and easier and more convenient if we embrace it properly and don't abuse it. I think it's going to be a good thing for humanity. And
Yeah.
I won't lie, there will be some jobs that will be slain, but the reality is a lot of those jobs, were mundane, repetitive task type jobs that should have went to the machines or automation a while ago, and that human should be doing something more that is thought provoking and mind usage beneficial instead of over and over and over and over and over again repetitive tasks.
Well, and I think what I'm hearing too is kind of even makes the case more for why the more human we can show up in our when we do have a human interaction with a prospect, a client, the more we like that becomes an edge as more and more people are using AI for marketing and using it very, very well. The one thing that we have that's an edge, it's the same thing back in theater. There could be 9 guys going in for the same role. They look exactly like me. They're the same height, the same type, the same vocal ability, but they're not me.
Right.
And so they don't have the same level of we're different humans with different levels of empathy, compassion, approach. And so this idea of vulnerability as a strength, I think, just speaking practically for a second, makes a lot of sense as we put it in context of AI. Because at least not yet, AI hasn't quite cracked that nut in
No,
terms of.
but I'll tell you where AI really is super beneficial to the average human. And I had this done a couple of weeks ago. I had a dermatology appointment. I called to reschedule my appointment because I couldn't make it, and it was all done through AI. And it blew me away at how seamless it was
Oh
when I
yeah.
was, oh, no, 3 o'clock won't work for me on the 8th. Can you do it at 4 o'clock on the 9th? Oh, I'll check that for you, Mr. Furman. And it came back and boom. And yes, we don't have 4 o'clock, we have 4:30 available. Would that work? And all of a sudden, boom,
Yeah,
I got
very
it scheduled in a matter of seconds and done.
transactional, easy.
Yeah. But that what people don't think about is how much money will that save a business
Oh,
owner
totally.
having somebody on the phone constantly or multiple people on the phones in bigger
How
organizations.
many times have you thought, oh my God, I have to call this number and it's outsourced to who knows where, and you can't even imagine, and you just before you even pick up the phone, you're aggravated.
Yep.
I just think that those kind of repetitive situations would be much better with AI because they can handle it without the
Done
emotion
properly, AI can be
and my
done a lot
emotion.
better.
In any
And
language.
AI will switch languages. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's just
you start speaking
any
English,
language, any
it'll pick up your
dialect.
Spanish.
It's incredible. Well,
And it's
I mean,
24 hours a day.
I think this, just to piggyback on some of the things Steve said. Number one, go back 100 years, right? Go back 150 years. Take your time frame. How many times over the decades, over the centuries, have jobs gone away for one reason or another? I mean, AI today, go back 100 years ago, what was it, right? Doesn't make a difference. some type of manufacturing got changed because of XYZ. And there's a reality in terms of the changes that humanity goes through globally. I don't care what country you're in, it doesn't make a difference. Something changes. And today we have AI coming into play. And what bugs me about what's going on with AI is this fear mongering, this idea that it's going to be Skynet. It's just like,
People
Or
in
you
general,
better hurry up, or you're going to miss the whole thing. You won't miss the
I
whole
know.
thing, but you will be behind your competitors. That much I can tell
Right.
you.
Totally.
But let me give you I mean, we've just in the short time frame, you guys all said the same thing, right? We're trying to figure out what are repetitive tasks that could be automated with AI to free us up. Sean, you said it well, to doing creative or thought-provoking type of activities. Great. I had a meeting yesterday, and I thought this was great. And to be frank, I did not. Yeah, I'm just looking at my notes real quick to make sure I'm not missing anything. I did not realize this was even out there yet. This is another reason I love these networking type meetings. Number one, this particular individual uses Claude as their primary AI. And I'm not saying that Claude is better than ChatGPT. As a matter of fact, he said
They both do
ChatGPT
different things.
yeah, ChatGPT was better used for research, whereas Claude was better used for project-based projects. Okay, so what he did was, and he showed this example to me. I love this. So he took my LinkedIn profile, turned it into a PDF, which I don't know if anybody's available realizes, but you can on any LinkedIn profile. You can click the three dots, say create a PDF. Now, if you're running off to the race, he then took the PDF, took it into a AI-based system called Humantic, which, to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't know it existed, but it does. Humantic turned around and created a personality profile based on my LinkedIn profile. However, if you want to beef that up, you include emails and websites and pages and whatever else you want. And Humantic turns on and creates a personality profile. But that's not enough. That's the interesting part. Then he turns around and takes everything from Humantic, adds it into Claude, adds any emails that he and I may have had, or emails he has access to based on what I wrote, anything else that you can possibly imagine about me, throws it into Claude, and Claude spits out how in this case, this person should interact with me, what things to avoid
It's
so that I don't
personality
get pissed
profile.
off,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What things to talk about so that I warm up to the meeting. Take
It's
a break.
wild.
This was wild.
It
Honestly,
really
I didn't
is.
realize that we were
That's just
that
one of
far
them.
into it.
There is, oh yeah, and it's even deeper than that.
We should probably this is probably multiple episodes.
Yeah, I agree.
we've got to wind this down
Yeah.
because it's
So I want to
getting,
be, I want to
we can
be,
really go on this one.
I want to
Mhm.
be, mindful of our, since we talked about preparation and planning, even though I don't have a 3 p.m., I'm sure some people watching this do. So what I'd like to do is just whip around real quick, a word or short phrase, something that landed for you today from our conversation, takeaway that was impactful for you. So Rochelle, how about you?
I just say with guidance, business, we're lunatics, but with guidance, it's doable. We're problem solvers, and this is all doable.
Yeah. Maybe
Structure and discipline.
structure and discipline. Love it.
Discipline.
preparation and adaptation. So be able to adapt and prepare first.
Business is a human experience.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. I agree.
Pleasure as always. Let's see what challenges come our way next week. And by the way, the last couple of shows I've kicked it off because of something that happened as a result of this podcast, but it doesn't always have to be that way unless it's working for y'all. So, certainly we can make this a lab for any of your issues as well.
And I think the guests, the viewers, I love it.
Cool.
Putting something in there.
It's real. It's
into the
definitely real.
messages. It definitely is real. I agree.
Well, thank you all for being here, for watching. I know we did have some people that hung on with us for the entire time again, so thank you for being here.
Great.
Share this
I
out,
love it.
subscribe wherever you're watching this. You're going to keep seeing more from us, especially as we continue to record these and start putting content out. If there's anything you would like us to talk about or see, or if you have a question, even if the show is already passed, please drop it in the comments. We will see it and we'll talk about it on the show. So we welcome your input as well. We want this to be as interactive as possible. Thanks, gang, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, guys. Take
Talk
care.
to you later, guys. Talk to you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.